Hey, hi. Thanks for stopping by for a bedtime vlog. I'm actually in my outdoor Head Hutt bed under the mosquito netting, even though there's not too many mosquitoes out here. But it only takes one, as the saying goes. If you ever think you're too small to make a difference, just try sleeping with a mosquito. uh, None of that was the point that I wanted to talk about. What I want to talk about is a topic that's been on my mind for years now, but I just listened to a lot of great podcasts today, or several, that all had a very similar theme and seems to be a increasingly prevalent theme out there in the new self-help book or mental health uh, research arena. And maybe it's just because it's a favorite topic of mine that I'm running into more of it, but I do think that it's becoming prevalent because it's needed right now, and that's the topic of self-love and telling a good story about yourself, examining the stories that you tell about yourself and making sure that they're serving you well and not getting in your own way, which is something I certainly have done plenty of, and I'm sure will still do. I think another reoccurring theme in many of the podcasts that I've been listening to lately is the fact that evolution is ongoing, that our own evolution and growth is ongoing, plus, of course, on a grander scale, it's ongoing. But, that we can't be totally sure what's going to happen, and all we can do is bring ourselves as best we can, as authentically as we can, as fully present and aware as we can. And I feel like putting a little asterisk out there on that, like, maybe not every single thing you do requires your 100% in. In fact, I had a favorite teacher in business school who used to say, only about 20%, that's that 80-20 rule, about 20% of the things you do really need 100% of your attention, and 80% of the things you do would be fine with 20% of your attention, realistically. There's probably some Buddhist monks who would disagree with that, and I think that 80-20 is just, works in some equations and not in others. So I'm not posing that as a mathematical theory. I'm just saying that some things might be more important than others to bring your whole self to. Certainly, the totality of our lives, the more we can bring ourselves authentically and lovingly and acceptingly. I say authentically, and that's a key word for me in my life. And the podcast I was just listening to was the speakers were talking about how one of the speakers was named Pippa something. I'll have to look her name up again. And she has a new book called Fearless, not Fearless, but Fearless. And then there's a subtitle that has to do with living your life more fully, I think. But the point being that the interviewer, whose name I'm going to get wrong if I try, so I'm not going to, but it's become one of my favorite podcasters. And anyway, he was surmising that authenticity is kind of the opposite of fear. And I think that was a really great point to be made, that when we are acting out of fear, and acting being maybe a key word in that, because another thing that was discussed just in that podcast was how much of our lives are we acting, are we pretending, are we playing a role, and how much of our lives are we just being authentically in the moment present. And often, or maybe always, when we are acting out a role, it's due to some kind of fear. Now, I think some of you might argue with me on that, and I would agree with some of that argument, that, again, back to that 80-20 concept, there are times in our lives where it serves us to play a role, and maybe that's not out of fear, at least not directly. You know, it's out of a desire to create something or to be perceived a certain way. It doesn't have to be based in what most of us think of as fear. But deeper down, we have this innate fear of not being accepted. And when you really get into, you know, self-examining why you play the roles you do, when I get into examining why I play the roles I do, it is some aspect of fear of other people's perception, or even of my perception of myself. And again, maybe fear isn't quite the word that I would use, but it is trying to avoid a certain perception. I'm hesitating now because I'm thinking, well, no, sometimes I'm deliberately trying to create a perception. And maybe I can have this conversation with one of the people that was in the podcast that I'm thinking of fresh in my mind right now. The point of all that just is that whether it's coming from fear or not, a lack of authenticity keeps us from being intimate, from being close with others, with our true self. And that can lead to less love of self and others, and that can lead to a less fulfilling life, I think. So my bedtime thought is try to fear less, like the woman was saying. Try to love yourself more, like so many people are saying lately, including me. And in that, accept your imperfections, forgive yourself for what you perceive as imperfections, and no need to apologize really, but just love yourself anyway, you know. And through that, you can fear less and show up more authentically, and hence connect with people a little bit more. I think the more we all do that, the better this future is going to get, or this now, the better the nows in the future will be. That's my half sleepy bedtime thought. I'd love it if you have any thoughts to add to that. Any questions, any comments? You know where those go. I hope you give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'm going to be continuing to bring bedtime thoughts and also adding some other content to this channel I'm kind of excited about, including some podcasts of my own, and probably more ramblings and more DIYs and more fitness is freedom kind of stuff, because that's what I'm into. Anyway, maybe more mosquito netting, who knows. I hope you are loving you, and as always, you can find ways of connecting with me in the description. I wish you love, lightheartedness, peaceful conflict resolution, amazing adventures, playful days and nights. Don't forget to play every day and night. Unless you're sleeping in the day or the night, which is what I'm about to go do. So, peace. Ciao. For now. Sweet dreams.